Welcome to the first Erace meeting of 2026. I'm Phyllis. I will be the facilitator today. Eracism is the slogan of the group Erace, which was formed in New Orleans in the summer of 1993. We seek ways through person-to-person communication to show that we are committed to treating all human beings with love, respect, empathy, compassion, and humility. Join us. Erace is an organization that does not espouse any political party, and we have no religious affiliation. We believe in acceptance of all people, and no personal attacks of any kind will be tolerated. We come with the intention to learn, to listen, learn, and not to argue. I'm going to read the land acknowledgement. We begin today by acknowledging that what we know as the United States is the ancestral and unceded territory of many indigenous peoples, and that there are many more nations and tribes that could be named here. Members of our meeting group today are on the lands of the Chitimaca and Choctaw in New Orleans, the Creeks and Cherokees in Atlanta, the Tonkawan, Lipan Apache, and Comanche in Austin, the Lenape and Piscataway in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, the Wampanoag and Nipmuc peoples in Boston, the Coahuila and Mojave in Riverside, and the Lumbee in Fayetteville. We thank their ancestors for being stewards of these lands through the generations and through today. We need to protect. Someone's coming. We need to protect and honor the history and people of these places. Despite centuries of colonial theft and violence, we should always remember that we are all still on indigenous land, and it will always be indigenous land. Most people who are here understand the rules. If you want to get on the list that I'll be keeping, and I will call people in order of the list, you raise one finger, move it a little bit so it catches my eye. If the person speaking says something that you need to clarify, for instance, a word you didn't understand, a term, you can raise two fingers, and per each speaker, each turn, there are two clarifying questions allowed. So the clarifying question should start with, I didn't understand what you said when you meant, or I missed a word or something like that, not meant to be a rebuttal of what was said. If you want to rebut, you raise one finger and get on the list. We do ask that everyone stays muted when they're not talking or being called on to talk, and close, depending on how many people we end up with, 20 minutes before the end, we'll invite everyone to go around and do a wrap up of their final thoughts. If somebody does not speak at all during the meeting, they will have 2 minutes in the wrap up. Everyone else will have 1 minute. And each time a person gets on the list, they also have 2 minutes. I think that's the highlights. So would you like to go around and introduce yourselves? I'll call on you in the order I see you. Nancy.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nancy. I have been coming to Erace since June of 2007, and I am in the New Orleans area.
Thank you. Louise?
I am Louise. I've been coming to Erace for over 2 decades, first in New Orleans and now in Austin, Texas.
Great. Oh, Louise, are you able to be my timekeeper?
Yep. Okay. I'll just go get it.
Thank you so much. Sorry, I forgot to ask you. Richard.
Good morning. It's Richard here in New Orleans with the race since its beginning in the early 90s.
Welcome. Malcolm? Malcolm, you're muted. I don't know if you can hear us. If you want to introduce yourself. maybe having some technical difficulties. I'll come back to you, Malcolm. Marla? Marla?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Teresa?
Yay, it's my turn. Yeah, Happy New Year, Teresa from Fayetteville, North Carolina. I've been coming since about August 2022.
Thank you. Looks like Marla froze. And Malcolm left to probably try to come back in. So Marla, you are frozen on my screen. Don't we love technology? Oh, she's coming in. Okay, Marla. You're
Okay.
on,
Hey, so
you're on
can you,
twice. You're on in two screens.
I have no idea why. I'll get rid of myself on the other screen. I could not unmute and I could not get myself on camera. So I signed out and I don't know why I didn't sign out. Anyway, I'm Marla. I've been coming to Erace since 2019-ish, and I'm in the New Orleans area.
Malcolm is back. Can you introduce yourself, Malcolm? You're muted.
Hello there.
Hi.
Good. I'm sorry I'm having problems with my both of my computer and my tablet, so sorry I missed you. And you're asking for what now? I'm sorry.
Just to introduce yourself, like how long you've been coming and where you're located.
I guess I think I'm Malcolm Reed. I have been coming, I guess, a little bit over almost a year, I guess. And I've enjoyed the opportunity to listen and hear from you. I'm in Denver. I got invited by a wonderful woman who keeps me grounded at times. She calls me names I don't understand. But Teresa. So that's me.
I think Malcolm, some TV in the background.
Yeah, I'm gonna kill that here in a minute.
Okay, you're gonna have to kill it permanently. Okay, so a reminder, everyone should stay muted when they're not on the list.
Worried about that. They're worried about the outflow of people from Venezuela.
Okay, muted Malcolm. So I chose this article for a variety of reasons. I'm really sick of the way the status of women in this country and around the world is being affected by you know who, and his minions. And I thought this was a really good take on the different microaggressions, macroaggressions, systemic issues, the role of masculinity in this, and it doesn't use the term, but it reminded me of what I've read about weathering as it impacts people of color who face macro and microaggressions and all kinds of systemic racism and abuses. While the article specifically does not mention, it doesn't differentiate by race or talk about race at all, I think we can all extrapolate for ourselves that this affects all women, and probably some women differently and to a greater extent. So having said all that, I will open the list. Teresa. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, no preamble there. So, thank you for this article. I'm glad you said the word weathering because I couldn't think of what I had read previously. I think we probably read the same research about why Black people beyond social economic status and diet and every other thing to dismiss the effects of systemic racism and just the internalized stress. And when I first learned about weathering, that's really when I started exercising a lot, doing something to make myself, having a positive outlet. And also as a woman, because, now that I'm middle aged, I find that if I get too angry or too stressed, I will lose vision in my left eye. I mean, it becomes unblurred. And I just thought, nah, I cannot let stress, whatever cause or whatever, just internalize. And I did not realize, although, your eyes are hardwired into your brain. So yeah, there's something, and I'm very, very happy that I have been able thus far to make the necessary changes in my life in order not to internalize stress. And that's a win. That is a huge win when you're not letting, I think it was from The Handmaid's Tale. They had that vulgar Latin. They said, don't let the bastards grind you down. We can start saying that again because that's another thing that this article made me think of. Louise, did you start the timer? Because I feel like I've been talking for
Yes, no, it's hardly
okay.
moving unless it's broken. But no, you're fine. You've got plenty of time.
Well, I that was my opening. I'll stop there, but I'm impressed it was under 2 minutes. That's not common for me.
Oh, it might be because it's a bit broken. Hold on.
Okay. That makes more sense.
I see Richard wants to speak. Anybody else want to get on the list? Malcolm. Okay, Richard, go ahead.
I think just Teresa, you reminded me of something that was sent to me by a well-known person here in New Orleans many years ago who used to send well, it's the Jolly Jazz calendar, if that anybody can relate to that. But she sent me a phrase that helped me get through a really rough time with a disease I was confronting. But the phrase is he, and it could be he or she who angers you, controls you. And now more than ever, that phrase seems so relevant to what all of us are going through right now. And that is that when we spend as much energy uh, in our anger towards somebody, some situation, uh, that situation, that person is controlling us. And I'm finding it now more than ever, very difficult to abide by that warning or advice. Is that it's very difficult not to be angry at the people that we're angry at. But the fact is, we're spending as much energy, negative energy, that affects our health and well-being when we are angry at somebody, because in effect, that anger is a way, it is a sense of control. The more energy we spend towards, that negative person or situation, we are undermining our own well-being. And so I try to live by that, just not to give that person or situation the satisfaction of controlling us, because anger is a sense of control by the person we're directing our anger at.
Thank you very much, Richard. Malcolm, you're next.
Oh, thank you.
Nancy.
I read the article and I had seen it before, and I'll just go through very quickly. I think what we've done is tapped into something that's always been hanging in the air. We just never have addressed it truly as it should be addressed. And I don't think we're still addressing it like it should be addressed. And I'm not sure the best way to address it. As you know, the NFL has two players right now under suspension for domestic violence and strangulation, and they both were women. And yet, as I read the article, it talks about women giving that there's certain ways that women give up their power and don't even realize it, or they give up their rights and their right to exist because of the male ego and male and men being in the position of able to uh, do what they do, and other men in somewhat agrees with what they did by saying things. Well, you need to get the so and so under control, and what kind of nerve she has to question me where I go and what I do. Um, I'm paying for the house and I'm doing this. So uh, I guess I feel strongly that women first need to, or be able to, I shouldn't say need, should be able to uh, buy their own house, provide their own car, provide a stable living uh, for them in order to survive in the society more effectively. And that hurts when it's down in the lower brackets. And right underneath all of that, uh, thank you.
Do you want to finish your thought? Or do you want
Well,
to?
underneath all that is the signature of race, because it continues to affect those who are in the lower income brackets, and that is Black women or women of color.
Thank you. Nancy's next, and I see you, Teresa.
This is kind of in response to what Richard said about, letting anger control you. Well, there's different types of issues, and as it relates to women, um, where okay, you change my work schedule and it's not as convenient for me as it once was, and you're gonna take away my ability maybe to go out on Friday night because you put me on Friday night work schedule or Saturday night work schedule or something like that, and I'm not happy about it. Okay, well, that's one thing. Okay. But when you start taking away my basic human rights to be able to control my bodily autonomy, I have the right to be angry about that. That's not letting someone else control me. I have the right to be angry, but you have no right to tell me what I cannot, or to take away the constitutional right to control my own body. I should be angry. I should be enraged. I'm surprised there's not more outrage about that. I mean, it doesn't, at this point in my life, affect me directly, but it affects my family members. I was once in that position, and yes, I was fortunate that Roe versus Wade was settled in 1973, just as I was coming into my reproductive years. So I've been able to live, a choice, the ability to have choice in my reproduction for my reproductive life. But for younger women who don't have that choice or are going to be persecuted for going somewhere else, I'll get back on the list because I got a lot to say about that.
You want me to put you back on after Teresa?
Back on.
Okay, Teresa, go ahead.
Thank you. I had to get my notebook because I like to take notes and rant. So I worked and traveled outside the States collectively for 11 years. And during that time, I thought about, and it was usually in developing countries, Tanzania, Honduras, probably the best, Egypt, but the best like higher level of income or whatever standard of living, that's what I should say, was Mexico. Ironically enough, because you hear about Mexico in one area, but I lived in Monterrey, Mexico. That was a lot of cocaine money, a lot of pseudo, like just gaudy type of furniture and fashion and whatever. So when I think of Mexico, I have a very, very different view than what is being offered in the news. Anyway, living in developing countries, I just thought when women are restricted in their education, birth control, and a means to make money, that those were the three things that just kept going, like every single country. Anytime they want to really control women, it's those three things. Don't let her like read too much, think too much, make any money, or control her body. And you think, oh my God, just three things? But these are three very formidable things. And even when a woman somewhat obeys, it's almost as if she is seen as a soft target. I mean, I learned one of the reasons why I couldn't really date the local men is like, oh my God, I might as well go back to the States. I'm not dating one of these guys. And, like, I'm not going to live on his standard of living or his ideal of what a woman is. And I would think for a lot of conservative countries, they would define me as not a woman. Or I would make better sense if I were not a straight woman. What do you mean you don't want to have kids? I had one of my Egyptian male students ask me, who was going to take care of me when I, was old. And I said, my money. That's what's going to take care of me. I mean, some people, I have a sister who has one child. He's never going to take care of her. He doesn't have the mind to do it nor the motivation. So, that's a gamble you take when you reproduce. Oh, my children will take, not necessarily, but okay. But I see that the more money you have going into retirement, the better off your standards of living. So I'll get back on the list.
You want me to put you back on?
Yes, please.
Okay. Nancy, you're next, then Malcolm, then Teresa. Anybody else want to go on? Okay, Nancy, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to continue to say that, you should be angry. The Department of Education has reclassified certain careers that are female dominated, like nursing, as no longer a professional career, which means that you're restricted in the amount of money that you can get to fund your education. These were careers that women could make a decent living and be independent and autonomous. Okay. And you're picking out certain career fields to defund and to say, well, they're not perfect. You have a question, Louise?
No, I think she's
Or you
getting
want-
on the list.
Oh. And so you should be angry. It's not a matter of allowing somebody to control you because you're angry about something. There are certain times where you should be angry and you should stand up and you should, the serenity prayer. Give me the courage to change what I can, the serenity to accept what I can't, and the wisdom to know the difference. Well, this is one of those times where there is attack on women. And there's attacks clearly on Black and brown people. And if you happen to be someone who falls into both categories, you're really being attacked. And you really should be angry. And you really should be looking at how to protect yourself and arm yourself. As Teresa said, it's all about money. The ability to be independent is dependent upon money. That's it for right now.
That's a clarifying question.
Yes.
Yeah, I was wondering if as it relates to anger. Are you feeling righteously indignated or just outright anger?
I don't know. I'm appalled. How dare you? How dare this country take away rights from women that women fought so hard to achieve? And how dare you seek to minimize one half of the population that you wouldn't even be here without? How dare you say that we are less than? And then don't even let me get on the bandwagon of how religion supports this. Don't even let me start on that. So I'm appalled. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you. Malcolm, you're next.
Thank you. I guess I'm gonna kind of throw a wrench here. First thing, I think the article just kind of move into the anger part, but I don't think it's the anger part that the article is trying to get to. As I've gone over it and marked on, I think it's talking about the psychological aspect of what's going on with women and how that anger is in some ways affecting their body, and yet they have to live with it on a constant basis. And I think if we keep thinking about just the anger part of it, we're going to miss what some of this article is talking about. That I think it's just as important is the effect that it has emotionally, not just by anger, but by being scared to walk in a dark down a dark street, or scared to be home alone by yourself and a male knocks on the door, and and you go to the door and you're scared to look out at or open your door, and you want them to respond to you. I think those are the things I think the article is trying to get to in a roundabout way. That the psychological part of it is constantly we're telling young ladies, and about this young lady who left home a few days ago, walking down the street, and they got cameras of her showing walking down the street, and something's happened to her. Hey, that alone causes I, as a male, get upset with it, and I'm hoping that no man or no person has done something to this young woman, and then I go to find out that possibly they found her body. But I'm hoping that you can put me back on later, okay?
Okay, I'll put you on after the next person. So I've got Teresa, Louise, Marla, and then Malcolm again. Teresa, go ahead.
All right, so going on with my notes here, I wrote down, is it all just testosterone? I mean, there was a question about why do certain guys feel that they are entitled to, and I do know, because I've been researching hormone replacement therapy, that even when women get testosterone, they become a little more aggressive than what they were before they were taking testosterone. But can we completely blame that? And I say blame because I don't, I'm still need to research that aspect of it, because there's a difference between what you say your natural inclinations are and being permitted far more. I've said it once and I say it again. Men in power don't write laws to be punished by. They write the laws so that they can maximize benefits. So it's not just simply, I don't think it's just simply a matter of biology. I think it's also the attitude of, again, when Nancy was talking about restrictions on her body or on women's bodies, Harris, during a presidential debate, said, can you think of a single instance? Oh, no, it wasn't presidential debate. It was when Kavanaugh, oh, that horrible job interview. Now, if it was me and I interviewed that badly for a job, I would not be sitting on the Supreme Court. Anyway, he got in because of other reasons, but she asked him, could he name a single medical procedure in which a man had to consult a politician or a politician got, and of course he couldn't, because men are not subjected to that. There was one Black woman, and I'll research it to see, but she wanted to basically she wanted to say that life begins before conception or something like that, and she wanted to regulate masturbation basically, and that was just laughable because it was just like, there is no man who's going to sign on that one, going with the men's bodies don't get nearly as regulated as women's. I'll get back on. I'm not even through half my list.
Okay. Louise is next.
So many things going around my brain. I think the one very big issue here of women being able to look after themselves financially is the childcare issue. If they had free childcare, I'm sure they would be making more money. It seems a pretty simple thing, but I think that would help a lot. And it goes back in history. I mean, what about witch hunts? They were strong women, single women, weren't married, but they were powerful with making, medicinal things for the community, blah, blah, blah. Men didn't like the fact that they were just women without a man, whatever reason it was, suddenly they're witches and they're burned and killed. And I mean, okay, so I think I've told you about this. I mean, sorry, my thoughts are so jumbled, but there is this study done that when a woman is walking down the street and a man is coming, I think I've told you about this before, that the woman would always step out the way for the man to pass. And I was noticing it with myself. It was like, yeah, I do that all the time. And then I started not moving, and I'd literally bump shoulders with the man because they were not moving out the way. Try it, ladies. It's actually quite weird. We're just so subservient. It's just so ingrained into our souls, that we do that. And I think that's an interesting facet of why men, whatever. Anyway, yeah, that's it. I'm done.
Thank you. Marla's next, then Malcolm, then Teresa.
All right, thank you. Wow, this is a great discussion. I want to thank Malcolm for pointing out the thing about safety, and it's infuriating to not feel safe. And that kind of led me to my next thought again about the anger aspect, which I agree. I don't think the article is really so much about anger, but when Richard brought up anger taking a hold of us, I think it's a privilege to not let anger affect one. And that's based on your economic security. Do you have appropriate housing? Are all of your basic needs met? Do you have access to health care, to childcare, to that kind of thing? And if you do, then I think it's easier to take a pause and heal, if you will, or take a beat and go to counseling or all of the things that one who is in a position of privilege has access to. Whereas if you're just trying to survive, yeah, you're going to be angry and you're not going to have maybe that ability to just move on through it or the support to move on through it. So, just thought about that. The other thing that I really want to point out about the article, and I don't know if anybody already mentioned it before, but where it says, when men internalize rigid gender norms, it can affect their health in lasting ways. The very system that grants them privilege can lead to men feeling as though they have to conform to an unrealistic version of masculinity. And if that is not met, it can contribute to worse mental health. So men who have these ideals that they have that are ingrained in them or whatever internalized really suffer as well. And I don't know that a lot of men will ever actually see that. The harm is harmful to them as well as to women. So I'll also add, oh, it's okay. You can, I don't need to go back on the list. I'm going to wait and listen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I asked a clarifying question about something.
Yeah.
That Marla said, um, um, as it relates to masculinity, you said that there were unrealistic expectations of masculinity. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, that's straight out of the article. It says the very system that grants them privilege, men, can lead to men feeling as though they have to conform to an unrealistic version of masculinity. And if that vision is not met, it can contribute to worse mental health. So, meaning the disempowerment of men.
Okay. The question that I wanted to know is what like examples of that unrealistic versions of masculinity. Like what's an example of that? I mean, I'm not asking you. I'm just throwing it out there since I don't because a lot of times people write those articles, they don't give examples of what they mean when they say certain things. I just was wanting to know what that was.
Yeah, I don't know if they give specific examples. I just think immediately of toxic masculinity, I guess, when as being an unrealistic type of masculinity. That's a good question. I don't know what they're specifically thinking about here.
Marla, is this the paragraph that says, plus there are disadvantages for men too?
Yes.
Okay. So it says structural sexism can foster unhelpful masculinity norms that encourage risk-taking, violence, substance abuse, and avoidance of seeking healthcare. So those are some of the negative impacts on men of those kind of things.
Yeah, and maybe an unrealistic version of masculinity are things like that, like I'm untouchable, I'm never going to get sick, I am always the breadwinner.
Real men don't go to the doctor.
I don't cry. Yeah, all of the things.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Yeah, that helped adding that little paragraph before.
Next is Malcolm, then Teresa, then the list is open.
Thank you. Marla brought up a good point. There's another good point that comes to mind is that as I read this article, some of the things that concerned me were that the health of men, of course, who seem to have these concerns of anger, because I think it is with men is anger at times, or their failure to understand and accept women as an equal to them, and that may have been brought up in their household. Even households that were controlled by women still have this male. If they're bringing up a male or two males in a household, they still have this dynamic of seeing their mother out there working hard, or her involvement with other males, and then go to find out she may be being abused by them too. So again, I think what seems to concern me the most is that we continue to talk about this violence against women, the whistling and making lewd gestures, or determining that if I take you out to dinner, you owe me something situations. I think that we still have not conquered or made males understand that it's a give and take situation at times, and that they're not supposed to win every time. And I think men in there are still in that that zone where they think they should win. If I should win an argument with you because I know more, or I think I know more, or if I don't know more, I know how to present my whole situation to you in a way that makes me a winner. Thank you.
Thank you, Malcolm. Teresa's next, and the list is open after that.
Ooh, can I get 4 minutes in that case? I'm kidding. So a lot here. The conversation made me think of, let me give this recommendation. Trisha Hersey's book, Rest is Resistance. When Marla was talking about having a luxury to rest, this woman really makes it, I think, more accessible, saying you can rest at any point. You can declare to rest whenever someone is making you feel like you're being lazy. That's always the buzzword to try to squeeze even like the last ounce of energy that you have because you're already overworked. Oh, you're being lazy. And I like the way from what I remember, it's like, I'm a human being. I wasn't meant to work as a machine. And it's not just a luxury to have rest, it is a necessity to have rest. And I do agree that I do have the luxury to take exercise classes and to read books and to have the time to read because I'm not working 3-4 jobs, and to be able to just sit and meditate in quiet and not always and I think it's interesting that that's part of the checklist, when you have a physical. Are you in a I feel like I think it's something like, are you safe? Is your home life safe or something like that? That's part of the questionnaire to see how stressed you are in your home life situation. And I just want to say when you're talking about toxic male, just the number of men who will punch a wall is just amazing to me. And it's just like, oh, how'd you hurt your hand? I punched a wall. It was like, why did you punch a wall? But just that whole. I remember one time a guy tried to insult me, and I think he didn't hang around women because he was like, oh, you're being a coward. And I was like, who cares? I'm a woman. Nobody judges women by, oh, you're so brave or what. But that's something that I think an insult that another man would say to a man and get more mileage out of than saying that to a woman. And I'll get back on. I'll wait.
Okay, Nancy's next. Do you want to go on after her?
Sure.
Okay. Go ahead, Nancy. And then Marla.
I just had
Malcolm.
I was talking about earlier before the meeting started about looking at these names on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and some of these it's men that come on, and it's telling women about how men think about women. It's like a wake-up call, okay? Because you may be looking at an action in one way, but this is what the guy is really thinking. And this is what he means when he says so and so. Blah, blah. Anyway, but one of the ones that I recently saw or heard, and it is pretty true, is that if you ask a man, what are the qualities that you're looking for in a mate, in a lifelong partner or a mate? He says he's going to describe to you a maze. And if you think about it, that's pretty much what men are looking for. They're looking for a mate with benefits. That's what they want, a mate with benefits. And I'm not saying that's all men, so don't none of you three over here get offended. But the majority of men, that's what they're looking for. A mate with benefits. Okay, I said what I had to say.
Okay. Teresa, you're back up.
All right, thank you. I just because you said a maid with benefits, I wanted to put this article that I wrote in 2017 called Bang Maids. Thank you for Nancy for bringing that up. That's in my blog. All right. So going back on my list, even when a woman obeys, she's still subjected to domestic violence because there is no, like, if a man feels or if another person feels that they have carte blanche and that they can just bark an order and they get upset and there's not a stopper or any resistance or anything that's saying, well, I can't just hit this person because blah 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 blah. So even when a woman obeys, that's what I think is really restrictive countries, she's still not treated well. You would think, okay, if she's obedient, if she's following all the rules, she's this, that, and the other, why wouldn't you protect such a woman who is trying so hard? And the truth of the matter is, anybody can lose their temper. Anybody could be, whatever. But if you are a dominant person and you're living in a situation in which somebody, your little whatever isn't to your liking, and you can just go off and you have quote unquote the right and you don't have to respect the humanity, what is going to protect that woman who is so obedient, so this, so that, so other, if the laws and the customs say, well, he has a right to do that to you because he's the breadwinner, he's the man, whatever God you're worshiping, put him, just the whole layer upon layer of why you should be subjected to whatever the whims of this violent person is. And that to me is like the biggest reason to just, I mean, if you're going to get beaten anyway, you might as well speak your mind, is how I feel. Like, you're going to beat me when I'm quiet. You're going to beat me when I'm speak. I'm going to let you know who I am and but that is my personality. I am outspoken. So was my mother. So was her mother, just generations of outspoken women. And yes, I'd like to be put back on the list.
Okay. Marla's next, then Malcolm, then Teresa. So Marla, you're up.
Okay, thank you. I want to just point out the last thought I had before the buzzer went off last time is that even on this call, not this specific call, but a previous call, I was told that women exist only to be vessels for children. Like that happened among people in this group. And it's interesting to me that I don't think any men came up who were on that call and said, no, that's not true. So I want to just raise the question. It's akin to racism in this regard, I think, where white people witness racist things all the time and we don't say anything, we don't do anything. Men, why don't you call it out when you see it? Because I've been in situations where there have been good men around, and my expectation would be for somebody to say something. In my experience, when I have told men in my life, many of whom are very, very aware of things that transpire with women and the inequity, that they are surprised at the things that I have personally experienced. Whether it is, you name it. I mean, and I bet every other woman on this call has experienced something similar, whether it's a direct assault, whether it's a verbal assault, verbal belittling, or just like microaggression, very subtle things, but that are meant to be harmful to women. Are you aware that that stuff has happened to all of us? Or do you believe us? I often wonder, and that's just kind of a semi-rhetorical question, but also I wouldn't mind if I had an actual answer. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Marla. Malcolm, you're next. No pressure. Richard, you want on the list?
Oh, I wasn't on that call that happened because I would have said something. If I was, I must have missed it, and I will apologize for that.
I don't think you were, to be fair. Thank you.
I guess again, I want to go back. I want to make sure that we stay focused on the article as well. Is that we're still dealing with uh, the emotional effects of all this that's going on, and women being put in certain situations, and 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 men being put in the situation, and men not able to handle it, except but in a violent way at times to respond to it. So I think that that's, to me, is a real issue that we still haven't addressed. I think men are scared to stand up when something like that happen or things happen around, because they get the fact that if they do, a lot of times other men will talk about, oh man, you're a real sissy, or what are you doing, man? Or you get labeled as being very toward women. You're feminist in some way. So I think that may be it. I don't have no problem with it. I guess I just don't. I mean, I say what I have to say, and I let it, I let it simmer. And if they want to take it on, then I'll take it on. If they want to walk away, they walk away. But again, somehow or another, we need to make sure that when we're raising our children, or when you're raising your children, and when your children, that we don't show those biases to where they continue on with males and females. And especially, we need to make sure that women understand that there's nothing out there that they can't do. Just as men are told there's nothing we can't do.
Thank you, Malcolm. Teresa's next, then I think Richard. Okay.
Malcolm, I just want to say I have no brothers and two older sisters, and my parents are very well, especially my mother, very biased. So you don't have to have a difference. You can have the same gendered children and still have bias. But I understand your point. I just find it funny. Um, I think Malcolm also said about the young woman who was walking down the street and disappeared and they found her. Well, that reminded me of the times I have vacationed by myself. I always pay more to have a very safe, like I map out where I'm going, strategically choose the hotel or whatever, because I am factoring in, I'm traveling alone, I'm going to be walking. I don't want to be sequestered necessarily in my room when the sun goes down. I mean, that's not really the point of me vacationing, but especially when I've taken dive trips, like say in Mexico. Of course, I was living in Mexico, so it wasn't. I was traveling within the country, but also the time I was teaching in Egypt, and I took a long weekend trip to Turkey. I mean, I do travel by myself, and I will get part of a tour just so it's kind of a discount, but the whole paying more money because I'm a lone woman and what that looks like to some people as being a target. But I always make sure that, especially when I am going to another place, that I have a map and I study that map and I walk with confidence wherever the heck I'm going, because I had to study. I had to study it because I don't want to be that lone woman looking at a map on the street in a foreign country. I mean, all of those things come into play. And then I think, well, if I were a guy, man, I could pretty much pass out on the subway like this one drunken soldier I saw when I was living in Korea. If you've never, like, that was the most excellent subway system ever, was in Korea. But this guy was just passed out drunk and just like, I was like, boy, I could never do that. I would just feel like someone's going to mess with me because I'm a lone woman passed out. And this guy was just, you know, that may have been his weekend plans or something.
Thank you, Teresa.
You are welcome.
Got Richard next and then Amal.
Yes, I think in response to Marla's totally understandable concern when she brought up that somebody, I guess, was in a race discussion that I wasn't in because I would have remembered that, but that somebody said that women existed only as a vessel for babies is, yeah, that's a perfect example of where I would have hoped, I would have liked to think I would have spoken up, or certainly some male would have. But and this is an example of clear verbal aggression, and that there are clear examples of verbal aggression towards women, physical aggression, of course, of the kind that I guess Teresa was referring to, where women justifiably feel threatened, uh, and that there's no justification for it. I think the problem that this article has raised in my mind that I brought out before is that where you talk about things like, quote, microaggression, where a woman, in this case, a woman would feel that she is being microaggressioned against for something that the male himself might not even realize is a sexist comment. This is where it gets really squishy and where there's a lot of gray area. And where some women who would feel that there's a microaggression taking place against her, another woman may feel, oh, it's just good natured teasing. It's not anything aggressive. It's not to say this is where the real squishy stuff comes in between men and women and between races, where you have these gray area, quote, microaggressions that could conceivably be taken as a sexist slight, but it's a matter of opinion, frankly. I know that'll get some discussion going, but I think I think there's a difference between the gray microaggressions that may or may not be, and clear examples of verbal violence and physical violence against women.
Okay, Richard, thank you. I've got Amal, then Louise.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I wanted to address Marla's question as well. First foremost, that's foul that happened, that was said. But I think as it relates to and this is what I've been hearing from men, why men have have not stepped up and said anything or defended women in certain situations. Like, I know of situations where guys have stepped in to defend a woman when she was having an argument with her husband or with her boyfriend, or and the man got physical or aggressive or whatever the case may be. And when a man that's outside that relationship steps in, how the woman looks at that man like he's the problem. Like, no, this is between me and my boyfriend or husband. Stay out of our business. So a lot of men feel like, why should I get involved when, if I do, this is the response that I'm going to get. So a lot of men have been falling back, and then you have the I'm an independent woman and don't need a man mentality that's out there. Well, if you're an independent woman and you don't need a man, or if you're an independent woman don't need a man in when you're in those situations with men, and you're expecting that a man will come in to help you or protect you, why should I when you don't need me? Why should I step in to help you when you don't, when my protection or my help is not wanted or needed or not invited? This is what a lot of men are saying. They just feel the need to fall back and not even get involved because there's these mentalities out there that we don't need men. Okay, no problem. You don't need men and you want to be equal to men? then go out there and be equal. And when you find yourself in a situation with a man, don't expect me to get involved.
Marla has a clarifying question, and then I do too, if she doesn't ask mine.
It might be different since I can only ask one. You kept saying fall back, and that to me implies that at one point men were very outspoken, or that you think that men were very outspoken and advocated for women in ways that maybe they don't now. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, I said I did use the word fall back, and the reason that I use that word is because I know, and when I was growing up, there was a time when you couldn't get away with saying or doing certain things towards females, whether it was a little girl or whether it was a grown woman. They got some dudes in the hood that'll step to you like, bro, that's a female, man. What's wrong with you? Get your mind right. Like that type of an attitude. And so I don't see that as much because now a lot of the women have taken on the mentality that they don't need a man to protect them. They don't need a man's help. They don't need. And so a lot of men was like, okay, well, that's your attitude, then I'll fall back when that dude beating you behind, and don't expect me to get involved. As harsh of an attitude as you may think that is, think about how a man feels when he comes to your aid and your attitude is stay out of my business, I don't need you. So yeah, fall back. A lot of men have fell back and rather than jump in and get involved, it was like, hey, deal with it on your own.
My clarifying question is, when you were saying this is the opinion of certain men, is
Yeah.
that your opinion?
And in some situations, yeah, it is. But I don't. Let's go to the first thing that I dealt with as it relates to what Marla was told as it relates to women only being here to have children. No, I don't believe that. I do believe that women are can have children if they choose to, but is that the only thing that you're capable of? No, absolutely not.
Okay, thank you. I have Louise next, and then the list is open, but good Lord, time flew. We might want to think about a roundup.
So Richard, when you were saying some women, oh God, it's been a couple of minutes but before that thing. Now my brain's not working. That women, oh my God, will stand up for their man, like, oh yes, blah, blah, blah. But that's the whole point. That's the psychological effect that's been ingrained in us, since the get-go. That's always that is the psychological. That's exactly what this article is talking about. It's the brainwashing. The brainwashing has worked, with so many women that they feel the need to be protected, to be. I mean, we and Amal, if you see a woman getting beaten up, of course you're going to stand in. If you see a man being beaten up, of course you're going to stand in and help. It's not, oh, and that's kind of, I'm a bit sad that you have that opinion that, oh, the independent woman doesn't want help, so F you, I'm not going to help you. I mean, you're helping someone who's in crisis at the moment, whether it's a man or a woman. I would like to think that you would step in and do the right thing, whoever it is. So that, you know, yeah, that chafes my butt a little bit. Anywho, that's it.
Okay. Thanks, Louise. Malcolm, I've got you, and then I think I'm gonna go to the wrap up.
All right. Boy, let me just do this and I'm not sure that we can ever get rid of some of the male situations where they will really treat a woman on an equal basis, on a continuing basis. It just is not going to happen, I don't think, because there's all these other things going on. So here's what I would say as pertains to this article. I think that now is the time when women are going to have to continue to assert their power, continue to stand up for themselves, and continue to either be more decisive with the men that they want to have around them. I bring that up only to say that a long time ago, not too long ago, I was watching a Western. And in this Western, real quick, it was some outlaws who were just walking down the street, and these women are talking, and one of the women said, you know, if the women had the right to vote, there wouldn't be this situation. But we're going to get the right one of these days. Well, they finally eventually got the right to vote, but the situation still hasn't changed to the point where I think that women can feel safe walking down the street, or they can feel safe going into a boardroom without finding somebody in that boardroom who's going to think they don't belong there, and they're going to try to let them know that they don't belong there. So I hope that we can have further discussions on this another time.
Thank you, Malcolm. Okay, so we'll go into the wrap up, and the only person who I believe has not gotten on the list is Lynetta. So you have 2 minutes if you would like them for your final thoughts.
Good morning, everybody. I was sitting here listening, and I was thinking about. First of all, I want to just add on to what Nancy said. Nancy was not only uh, uh, it's teachers, social workers, and nurses, and those professions are not only dominated by women but also Black women, and it is it's intentional. Is how I see it. These are professions that Black women have used to better themselves and get out of poverty. And I think it was intentional to do to what the Department of Education has done. But that's not what this conversation is about. But I just wanted to add on to what you said. But to get back to the conversation about men and women, I had a client over the holidays. She has a granddaughter. She is a domestic violence case, and her daughter, um, her daughter's baby daddy made a allegation. This happened in St. Tammany Parish, that she was an unfit mother, and went to the police department and got the child taken out of the home on New Christmas Eve. And I tried to stop this from happening, to tell the police department that this was a domestic violence case and it was a false allegation. They wouldn't listen to me. They would not listen to me. And they put that child in a foster home on Christmas Eve. You can imagine how that affected that family and that child. And that man only did that to get back at the child's mother. That was the only person that hurt. It was not the adults in that family. It was that child to be done that to.
Thank you, Leonetta. So we'll go into the 1 minute wrap up. So I will start with Nancy.
Very, excuse me, very interesting discussion, which has, like tentacles that could go into many different areas. We could continue this discussion. But I do want to say I was there, Marla, when that comment was made about women being vessels for childbearing. That was the only purpose for being on this earth. Um, but I also want to say at the same time, there was Bill Ives, who's no longer with us, who would stand up and say when things were not right. If comments were made, derogatory comments were made about women, he would back you up, or he would stand up and he would say something. So um, there are some men that will do that. Also, when I listen to these posts on Facebook or Instagram, I've heard some of the guys say, "Man, I'm going to lose my man card for telling y'all this, but this is what's up." All right. And he just lays it out there and says, men say this or they do this. This is what's on their mind. This is where they're coming from. But I'm going to lose my man card for it. Good discussion. Have a great day.
Thank you, Nancy. Richard?
Yes, I'll agree with certainly with Nancy that it's worthwhile discussion, as usually is the case. And also in response to uh, Nancy's initial observation, and I will agree that righteous anger, and I mean righteous in the positive sense, righteous anger is what fueled the civil rights struggle. And in that case, and as probably what I should be clarifying is when I talk about he or she who angers you controls you, it really is the anger directed towards an individual that can often result in counterproductive manifestations of that anger, where you just sit and stew and are just so angry at a person without taking the kind of action. And obviously, I'm thinking in many cases of the people running the government right now, that action needs to be taken to counteract that condition which is angering you, or those actions that are angering you. But just being angry is a sense of towards somebody, that person really is controlling you until some action is taken that justifiably counteracts it.
Thank you, Richard. Louise?
This was great discussion. And coming from a family that was full of domestic violence, my dad would always, whenever he went to court or the police came over, it would always be, oh, she pushed me into it, or she, it's her fault. She, made me do it, kind of thing. Yeah, made me pull her down the stairs by her hair or punch her face. So yeah, toxic masculinity was around me all my life as a growing up. And then on the lighter note, again, part of this psychological ingrained stuff we have to deal with, walking past a work site, I would just assume that I would get wolf whistled, and I generally did. But there was one time that I walked past, and I remember, and I was younger, and they didn't do anything, and that was just like in my head. I was like, "Wait, what?" It's like, "Hey, what are you doing? Why aren't you whistling at me?" So it's what the hell was I thinking? It's like I expected it, and then when it didn't come, I was almost offended, you know. So yeah, it's crazy, mixed up. Thank you very much for this.
Thanks, Louise. Malcolm?
I don't think I have much to say at all right now. It's nice seeing all you ladies and gentlemen that are on the call. I hope that in some way we have touched a nerve, or we have in some way made it very interesting to see that even now we have division about how we're going to justify, or how we're going to accept the fact of women being equal or on equal terms with us. That when reports come out like the one that we've been given to read, we need to stay with it and try to make some changes and help other people make changes. And quickly, I'll just do this. Um, I was involved with a lady who worked in domestic violence at one time. Middle of the night, she was called out, and she asked me to go with her, and I went with her, and we went and rescued this lady, brought her back to a safe house in Denver, and she had been in violence and everything. And so the safe house is located where you're not supposed to let anybody know. By the 7 o'clock that next morning, she had called her boyfriend and had him come and pick her up at the safe house. So again, there are all these other things we can say about these situations, but here's the bottom line of the situation is we need to work with those people, and we need to make changes too to ourselves so that we can be better at helping them get over the hump here. Thank you.
Thank you, Malcolm. Teresa?
Thank you for this article. Next time I'm fussing or cussing someone out, I'm gonna tell them I didn't lose my mind, I'm preserving it. So I'm gonna take, the cautionary tale from that. And I kind of had a questionable Christmas because my house went through renovation, still going, starting the day after Thanksgiving, and it continues into 2026. And I told everybody that they were getting cussed out for Christmas. So, that idea was around for a while, and now I'll just continue it throughout the entire year of cussing people out to preserve my own mind. Anyway, in an unrelated note, I would like to share with you all the link, and I put it in the chat, about my trip to Ghana. I was there for 2 weeks, and I spent several weeks afterwards writing a series of blog posts about it. Nancy, I still want to know about yours, if you wrote about it or something, because it was amazing that you and I both visited that country. And, I recently found out that Burkina Faso no longer grants visas for Americans in reciprocity to what our government has done. So it's like even travel is now being restricted for those. Ghana's not on the list yet, thank goodness, but wow. The world is getting smaller, and I don't know what much we can do if we want to visit in person. So
Thank you, Teresa. Amal?
Yeah, I was a great article. I was thinking about the quote that Richard gave as it relates to anger. And I think sometimes we when we hear quotes like when I hear quotes like that, at least, it makes me wonder, is that something that sounds good philosophically, but in practice it doesn't really relate? And what I mean by that is that I think that that's something that so in other words, the person that's making you angry tells you that with the hopes that you don't respond in anger towards them. It's almost like turning the other cheek. If I slap you, just take it and turn the other cheek. And yeah, that sounds good philosophically, but what's going to happen when I run out of cheeks? Then what? I'm as only how many cheeks does a person have before they respond to you slapping them? So that's what I think about when I hear quotes like that. Like how realistic is that when you're doing something to purposely anger me, and then when I respond back in anger, you say, "Oh no, don't give your power over to me because I think that you know, your anger towards me, even though I'm making you angry, is just you giving me power. No, I'm gonna give you something, and it's not going to be what you're expecting."
Thank you, Amal. Marla, you're the final person before I do my
Yeah,
final thoughts.
thank you. I don't have too much, but I know even though it's just an expectation, I do appreciate that the men on the call today were very respectful. And yeah, I don't have anything else. Be kind to each other. That's it.
Thank you. I really appreciate the level of engagement in this topic and article.
Mhm.
I wish there were certain other members of our group who had attended as well, but they did not. So I, as usual, took some notes while y'all were talking, and I don't know where to start. Well, I appreciate what Amal said in his wrap up about the way the sort of don't let your anger to other people control you, or don't let them control you by making you angry is sort of, and I think Marla said it too, it comes from a place of privilege. It also doesn't really apply to larger cultural systemic issues. It might work if you've, got a sibling who just tries to yank your chain all the time. It might be useful in that, but in terms of oppression and injustice, nothing ever got changed by people who weren't angry. And about the concept of men protecting women, I think most of the time men are willing to attempt to protect or think they need to protect women that they feel they somehow have ownership with or relationship with, like a family member or a girlfriend. I think it's rare that a woman would expect any random man to stand up for her if she was in danger. There are, of course, exceptions, but I think the idea that someone's going to say, well, they all want to be independent women now, so I'm not going to step in, is also shows that the ego is involved in being helpful, that they, if they're going to help, they want some props for it. And if they're going to get, told off, or a woman who's still in the throes of the abuse mentality tells them, leave my man alone, that's not going to feed their ego. Also, if people who have a right to be angry are told to suppress their anger, it's to make the oppressor comfortable, because nobody, the oppressor doesn't want to have to face their own problems and their own actions. And I guess I want to touch on the I don't know if everybody's heard about it, the movement in South Korea, the 4B movement, where women are opting out of dating, marriage, and children because of the patriarchal, hierarchical nature of the culture there that's still oppressing them. And one of the quotes from a Korean woman I read was, "Nothing from my body will oppress me." And I think, because you give birth to boy children and then they grow up and they become little patriarchs and big patriarchs. And, although, I feel like there's a lot of respect for moms in South Korea from, what I've seen on TV shows. But there's always exceptions, and there's also always abuse in every culture. So yeah, I just appreciate starting off 2026 this way, and I will end with not saying it very well. Nolite te bastardes carburan darum. Don't let the bastards grind you down.
What language is that?
That's fake Latin. It's from The Handmaid's Tale.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bill. You said fake Latin. I was about to ask you what. I didn't know that there was a fake or a real Latin.
There's real Latin. Yes.
Hey, Amal, if you scroll up, I put the quote in the chat.
Okay.
After I said hi, Amal.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
Also, I want to say, I think it's a quote from Margaret Atwood, but who wrote The Handmaid's Tale? I could be wrong. That women worry that men will kill them. Men worry that women will laugh at them. So that's the unequal power situation that we have. Our laugh at a man could get us killed. Okay, I will stop the recording.